Welcome to the Military Justice Today podcast with your host, Robert Capovilla and Mickey Williams, covering the full range of military law topics from all branches of the armed forces. Today's episode is made possible in part by the law firm of Capovilla and Williams. And now, let's welcome the hosts of the show, Rob and Mickey.
All right, everybody, here we go. Another episode of Military Justice Today. I'm Matt Starosiak, stepping in momentarily before we get to our real host of the show, Robert Capovilla. And you're it today, Rob. That's it. No Mickey, no Dan. You're it.
That's right. Mickey said that he had a ear infection and he's been out of the office for 13 days. So, yeah, I mean, who knows, right?
No, we know better than that. We know better than that. Mickey's been doing the Lord's work, right? He's been in trial, no?
Yeah, Mickey's been traveling all over the place the last few weeks. Just got back yesterday from a court-martial, so he won't be joining us for these next few episodes. He does not have an ear infection. If he did, he would not take 13 days off of work, but I know he's going to listen to this, and in the back of my head, I can hear Matt calling him soft. So, Matt literally, before we started, said that you're soft for not being here. So I hope you know that.
That's not true. Should we say bad things about him, though, since he's not here?
Oh, I think that's the best time, given, how big and well-trained he is. The best time to make fun of Mickey is when he's not here.
I don't think there's any doubt about that. But we've got a great show today. It'll be fun with just the two of us here. But we're going to talk about a recent article in the Military Times. We're going to talk about some broader issues that are mentioned in the article having to do with sexual assault in the military and reporting and how those decisions are made and defending those cases. So it'll be a great episode. But first, we've got a pre-show topic or question. Rich, our producer here, was telling us how he recently toured the Atlanta Braves stadium, was able to jump in the batting cage for a couple minutes, which I think must have been a very cool experience. You and I got to take in a Rome Braves game a couple Saturdays ago. And the question I asked you was, as we were watching the pitchers throwing gas at 96, 97 miles an hour, is if I gave you enough time to train, let's say 6 months, could you get in there and hit those guys?
No.
Why not?
No.
I thought you were an athlete at one point.
So, for anybody who's listening to this, Matt doesn't grasp the idea that high A baseball, which is what the Rome is, they're a high A affiliate of the Atlanta Braves.
They're not double A or triple A.
Those guys are professional baseball players. Most of them were drafted in the top 10 rounds of the Major League Baseball draft. Some of them are top 10 prospects in the Braves organization, and they were throwing like 95 and 96 miles an hour. I was a pretty good high school baseball player. I was all city and all conference and all that kind of stuff. I was mostly a hitter. I couldn't field or throw at all, hardly. But no, I could not hit those guys. At 37, soon to be 38, I would have zero chance at successfully reaching base against them, even if you gave me 6 months to do it.
Even if I gave you the time. Even if I gave you the time and I brought in guys throwing gas every day, you couldn't adjust and be successful against
Zero chance.
I'm very disappointed.
Zero chance.
Robert.
The pitcher, and just to put this in context, the pitcher that we were watching when Matt asked me this was throwing 97, 98 miles an hour.
Yeah,
and I said,
gas.
No, I would not be able to hit that even with 6 months of preparation.
I was actually shocked at how fast they were throwing. I didn't really have an expectation before we walked into the park. I've been to those games before, Rome Braves, but I was shocked at how fast they were throwing.
Yeah, I mean, those guys are pros, man. Those guys are the top half of 1% who got drafted to play professional baseball.
I bet if I asked those guys, if I gave them 6 months, could they step into the courtroom and do a trial like you? They'd probably be like, yeah, of course I could.
Well, they could do a trial. I don't think they could do a trial like me.
Probably not. Probably not.
No way.
All right. Well, my questions don't. We're gonna do a podcast here one of these days. I'm just gonna ask you hard questions. We're gonna spend the whole 45 minutes hour. I'm gonna pepper you with hard questions, not these softball ones we like to start the show with. All right, well, let's jump into our topic. So we had an article come out, lots of articles obviously come out in the Military Times or Stars and Stripes, but this one happened to come out in Military Times back in late April. It was written by Megan Myers. We don't know her, haven't spoken with her, but the article obviously involves something that you deal with every day, which is sexual assault charges in the military. Folks can go out there and read the article. I encourage that they do. Frankly, the Military Times has a lot of great content that we recommend folks stay apprised of. But But the article talks about basically where reporting is at and where convictions and prosecutions are in the military these days regarding just sexual assault, right? It didn't touch on any other type of charges or crimes.
That's right. It was an article written that was supposed to be a factual article, and certainly the reporter had placed some of her own opinions throughout the article and her terminology and things like that. But the gist of the article was the same old story. Why does the military not prosecute more sexual assault cases? Why is sexual assault so rampant in the military? Premises that I have fundamentally disagreed with for a very long time as a guy who is in the trenches every day. I imagine our firm has as many or more sexual assault cases than just about any other law firm in the country. And we are really on the ground floor. And I do have some disagreements with Megan. I did email her twice to come onto the show, did not get a response back, which was a little disappointing. We've had folks in the Military Times on here before. I don't blame her. Her viewpoints are different than our viewpoints, but I'm looking forward to the opportunity here to talk a little about what we see every day and what we view as the truth regarding sexual assault in the military.
I mean, before we kind of get into the nuts and bolts of it, is this another situation where you can take statistics and kind of use them in any way that you want? I mean, I often find that when I look at this or whatever it might be, you can look at the statistics and say, oh, this is great. This means that we're doing well. Or you can look at those statistics and say, oh, geez, the sky is falling. Politicians make their livelihoods, their careers arguing those types of things, right? Is this another instance of that, or do you think there's more at play here?
So I'm going to answer that question by saying that the premise of the article was that the Army is prosecuting less people today for sexual assault than they were all the way back in 2012. In fact, it says that in 2012, 68% of founded investigations into sexual assault, meaning that CID determined that probable cause existed to move forward, or the trial counsel determined probable cause existed to move forward. 68% of those cases back in 2012 were going to trial, whereas according to her numbers in 2022, only 22% of those substantiated, is the term that she uses, end up in trial. The point that she then makes is that there has been an increased number of separation boards in the Army for sexual assault related charges. And when I read that, I wanted to place some of this in context for folks who listen to this show and, for folks who are interested in military justice, for parents whose son or daughter are going through the process in one way or another. And I'm going to do something today that I don't do very often. I'm going to defend these trial counsel, these prosecutors, and these commanders, and the military justice system. I think it is a flawed system. I've made that clear almost every episode we have. I am still dumbfounded how we do not have unanimous verdicts. I think it's a sin against the service members that we don't have unanimous verdicts. But in this particular instance, the military is, and you're talking to a guy who has a law firm that represents people in federal court for sexual assault, military courts for sexual assault, and also state. And I'm telling you right now, Matt, the military is the most aggressive body of all of those entities when it comes to prosecuting sexual assault cases.
So the implication, though, from the article, and I want to get your opinion on it, obviously, in a moment, but the implication from the article is that the military is going kind of soft on these prosecutions, right? So you're seeing more separation boards, which are serious, obviously, but not as serious as a full court-martial. Is that kind of the idea behind it? And so that means, by reasoning, I guess, that the military isn't going as hard on these types of prosecutions and charges as they once did.
That's correct. It's the same old line of questioning that our officials in the Pentagon get scared to death of. The same narrative. The military is soft on sexual assault. And I don't know why some of our leaders don't step up and say that's just fundamentally not true. It is not true. Let me give you an example right now. I have a court-martial out of Fort Sill, Oklahoma. Obviously, I'm not going to talk about the parties. That started with the Oklahoma City Police. Within 7 days, the Oklahoma City Police looked at the case. Maybe it was 10 days. And they're like, absolutely not interested. It is not in the interest of justice to go forward with this trial.
The evidence didn't support it.
The evidence did not support it. The prosecutor, the DA that was in charge of that case, literally told the alleged victim exactly what she needed to hear, which was, look, we know this is difficult on you. We know this is hard, but we do find it a bit suspicious that these allegations did not come out until after you found out he was dating somebody else. And your messages and communications immediately after this alleged assault clearly show consent. We're sorry. We just don't think we can prove this case beyond a reasonable doubt. That's integrity-driven government representation. It's now in the hands of the Fort Sill prosecutors. They are pushing this case. They are going to trial with it. We are going to be in front of 8 members here come November. And it is absolutely a case that has no business going before a court-martial. So that's one example of many that we've had where the military is far more aggressive than our local government when it comes to prosecuting these kind of cases. And Matt, that is a fact.
How often do you think that happens?
It happens all the time. We have a number of cases. I mean, I would say we probably deal with 24 to 36 cases a year at the firm where the local, the civilians, the civilian prosecutor, the local government, whatever, the state, federal government decides the case should not go forward on evidentiary grounds. And the military is more than happy to take it all the way.
Does the military have access to that same evidence? Do they spend the time looking at it? I mean, why would that happen? Is it because they don't review the evidence as closely enough? They have a different idea in their minds as to the standards that have to be met during the prosecution? What is the reasoning for that?
I think that's a simple answer. Political pressure. I believe we are seeing political prosecutions in the United States military primarily because of articles like this that paint a false perception of what is really going on. What should really be happening is we should have a system that is fair for an alleged victim. There are absolutely people that get violated sexually in the United States military. There are people, civilians, who are violated by service members sexually.
And that's a problem.
Absolutely
a
problem.
We've never shied away from, on this show at least, we've never shied away from the idea that that's a problem.
Absolutely a problem. Yeah. It's a problem in universities. It's a problem in the general public. It's a problem anywhere it happens. It's no more prevalent in the military. And we also do a lot of Title IX representation. We deal with colleges and universities on sexual assault matters on a daily basis. It's no more prevalent in the military than it is on university campuses. Now, none of it's right. But again, we're talking here about allegations. We're not talking about whether or not the person who allegedly committed the crime is guilty. So the primary point of what I'm trying to get at here is this narrative that has been created in part by certain Democratic leaders in Congress. Certainly President Biden has done his part to make it clear that they're going to be very, very, very aggressive when it comes to sexual assault, as they should be. But you know what else should be absolutely talked about and cared about? The rights of the people who are actually being accused. All these articles do is talk about what is veiled in this article is the answer is more prosecutions. That is within the first page of the article. She makes a point to say that more cases are going to boards and we're not prosecuting as many people. Is that the end goal, Matt? Should that be the goal of a justice system? Prosecute as many people as we possibly can, no matter the evidence? Or should it be we need law enforcement investigators who are well-trained, well-equipped, and experienced? We need military prosecutors who are well-trained, well-equipped, and well-experienced. And we need trial defense services and defense lawyers who are well-trained, well-equipped, and well-experienced so that this is a fair process for everybody involved. That's what the goal should be. The goal should not be let's prosecute every single sexual assault allegation that comes forward regardless of the weight of the evidence. Because let me tell you something. That is absolutely wrong and it's unjust.
Yeah, I think the political pressure is a problem in lots of areas of our daily life now, probably more than ever. But does the evidence, is it clear from the evidence in a lot of the cases you see what's really happened? It seems to me, I'm familiar with some of your cases and been, in this industry a little while, but it seems to me in a lot of these cases that the evidence kind of speaks for itself. Sometimes you get videos and you watch the video and it's very clear from the video. If somebody did something bad, that's clear. If somebody didn't do something, that's clear. are they not looking at the evidence, or is it just they're looking at the evidence, but the political pressure is so much that they're making a decision that's kind of contrary to it? I mean, it seems to me like in a lot of these cases, the evidence just doesn't fit the charges.
I do not believe that military prosecutors' commands care that much about the evidence anymore. I believe they care about protecting their brand, protecting each other, protecting the command. I don't think there is evidentiary analysis that goes on anymore in terms of, is there enough evidence to go to trial? I think the default position now is, okay, how boisterous, how vocal is this alleged victim? Is she the type that's going to go, or he, the type that's going to go to the military and make a complaint? And do we need to prosecute this to protect the brand, the United States Army brand, or the Navy brand, or the Air Force brand? That, to me, has become the paramount question that goes on behind the scenes. And that is not how the system is supposed to work. And I'm not attacking individual military officers. What I'm saying here is the pendulum needs to swing back into the middle, where it's about a fair process, because right now it's just simply not. Right now, my firm is loaded up with cases where there is hardly any corroborating evidence, where there are a number of reasons to question the credibility of the alleged victim, and it doesn't matter. And they take these cases to a general court-martial, where we are the only jurisdiction in American jurisprudence that does not require unanimous verdicts. Think about how scary that really is. And then add on to that the military is doing everything it can to educate military members on believe the victim. This system is coming very close, very, very close to turning into a kangaroo court, which the military justice system has been called a kangaroo court for a long time, and I've always fought against that. We are coming very, very close to this becoming nothing more than a kangaroo court.
How does it get fixed? I mean, how does it get fixed? Do people, in leadership just need to start standing up and saying we're not going to bring these cases unless the evidence supports it? Or how does it get fixed? Because it's such an emotionally charged issue. I think from somebody with an outside perspective, it's like a lot of things in America. We do a really great job of taking an idea that is good and taking it to the extreme and turning it into something that it was never designed to be. And it sounds to me in ways this is that issue. I mean, sexual assault, everybody wants that eradicated from our lives. But we take that issue and then we take it to the extremes where we're now prosecuting people in cases where the evidence just doesn't at all support it. So how does it get fixed? Does it take politicians standing up to these issues? Does it take commanders standing up and saying, look, we're just not going to do this, even though it might be covered in the media and it might be politically painful for us? How does that work?
First thing that happens is we need unanimous verdicts. That's got to happen. That is essential to a fair trial. I don't care what the appellate service courts say. I think their reasoning for not having unanimous verdict is totally bogus. We've had podcasts on that. That's what's got to happen. Second is that there's got to be more resources given to the trial defense services, the area defense councils, the regional defense councils in the Navy. There's got to be investigators given to these units. They've got to have the ability to conduct thorough investigations, and there's got to be more emphasis on the rights of the individual being accused. I was recently sent a witness list where it listed the name of the alleged victim and said, we're not going to release the alleged victim's contact information out of her safety. Well, what about my client's right to a fair trial?
Yeah.
What about my client's right to effective assistance of counsel? Those are the things that I'm starting to see now that cause me to have serious concerns. And the last thing that's got to happen is we've got to train the law enforcement officers, investigators in the military better, and we've got to train the prosecutors better. There needs to be a prosecution and defense track in the military where you do nothing for the military except try these cases, and then you're groomed to become judges. Because by and large, when I deal with experienced prosecutors, we usually get to the right answer. It's when we deal with these prosecutors that have been doing it for a couple years, they've tried 3 cases, and they want to fight you on every single thing. They lack perspective. There's got to be more experience in the system.
Yeah.
I think that would go a long way. Now,
But is that a solvable issue? I mean, you're obviously always going to have some inexperienced people. Is there a way to kind of allocate the cases in a way where you might have the tougher ones, the more politically charged ones, the more serious ones going to more senior people? I mean, I just don't know how the system works and how the cases are divided up, but you would think that there would be a way to do that already.
I would have stayed in the JAG Corps if there was a way to do that already. If I could have stayed litigating as the defense counsel in the JAG Corps, I would have stayed in. One of the motivating factors to get out is I was told I can't litigate much longer, and I didn't want to do anything else. So I know they're trying. I think that with the Office of Special Trial Counsel, they're trying to address some of those issues. But I want to talk just briefly, Matt, about this idea that was cited in the article about why we have more separation boards. And that seems to be in the article something that she is not pleased with, meaning the author. And what I would say is I think that is a good sign. I think that is a sign that we are looking at some of the evidence from a legal standpoint, and that we are starting to see a small shift from believe the alleged victim no matter what to actually analyzing the evidence. Now, the author of the article says the reason we see, essentially she says, the reason we're seeing more separation boards, and she, of course, only interviews a person who is a victim advocate. She doesn't interview anybody like me. This is a one-sided article with one-sided sources. And that person that's quoted in the article says, well, the reason you're seeing more set boards is these alleged victims don't want to relive the trauma. I would say, in my experience, that's not the reason we see more set boards. The reason we see more set boards is because there's an evaluation going on of the evidence that's starting to shift, where these prosecutors are recognizing they're not going to win, so they send it to a separation board, and that's perfectly acceptable. Separation boards carry very serious consequences.
I was just going to say, I mean, a separation board is not nothing, right? I mean,
absolutely not.
It's something to somebody. You're talking about somebody's career, their reputation, their financial well-being, their future benefits. It's a very serious step, correct?
Absolutely. I mean, listen.
You guys fight those hard every single day at your firm.
Right. I mean, folks can lose millions of dollars of retirement at a separation board. Their futures are placed in serious jeopardy if they get an other than honorable discharge. So I fundamentally disagree with this premise of the person that she quoted in her article, who's a victim advocate, that it's because the alleged victims don't want to live the trauma of, relive the trauma or live the trauma of a trial. Well, what are they exactly saying there then? Are they saying that if an alleged victim's come forward, no matter what her motives may be, no matter what the facts say, no matter what the evidence says, that American citizens and service members should just be locked up? Is that the answer? Is that what we're going for here? Where an allegation by itself is enough to end somebody's career and future and deprive them of their liberty? Is that really the end goal here?
Yeah.
Now, I'll tell you what our founding fathers said. Absolutely not. Because this exact scenario that I'm talking about right now, where a single allegation could cause you to be thrown into a dungeon, is why we have the 4th, 5th, and 6th Amendments.
Yeah.
Because
right to confront your accuser, right to look at the evidence, right?
Absolutely.
All of those things.
Because back in colonial times, right, the king could literally say, or the king's court could say, throw him in the dungeon. I don't want to see him for 5 years. And that was sufficient. I get very, very, very scared.
It kind of sounds like the way you order me around. Like, do
it's
this,
true.
Matt, do this.
It's true.
You're kind of my king in a way.
I don't think that's right, but I'm sorry you feel that way. I don't have the unilateral power to throw Matt into a jail cell, although sometimes I want to. But Matt, the point is what's the end goal here? To just deprive everybody of their due process rights in the name of allegedly avoiding a situation where a victim has to relive trauma? I'm here to tell you that's dangerous talk. I'm here to tell you that's what goes on. That's what went on in Nazi Germany. That's what went on in England prior to the Revolutionary War.
Yeah, kind of be careful what you ask for.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
How broken is the system? So let's assume a couple of things. One, no legal system is going to be perfect. They're all going to have issues. None of them are going to get the result right every time. There's going to be guilty people that go free. There's going to be free people that get convicted. We've seen that happen. You can come up with plenty of examples in our history of our jurisprudence where that's happened. So no system is going to be perfect. But how broken do you think this system is with respect to this issue of prosecutions and sexual assaults. In other words, if I said on a scale from 1 to 10, 10 is a perfect system where the victim has their rights, the accused has their rights, and 1 is a system where, it's just completely one-sided. It's a broken system. Where do you think we're at today, and how good do you think it could possibly get with the right decisions and leadership?
The creation of the Office of the Special Trial Counsel, I believe, is going to be successful. And I have hopes that's going to create a more fair system for everybody involved, which is exactly what we want. I am a defense attorney. That being said, if somebody is guilty of sexual assault and they're found guilty through a fair trial, I have no problem with that. That's the system. I don't understand why the people on the other side of the bar, believe that everybody who's found not guilty should still be punished. That's essentially what we're saying here is we don't want any not guilties anymore. So I believe the Office of Special Trial Counsel has the means and the resources to fix it. That being said, I have my concerns and doubts about that too, because I recently watched the introduction speech by the new 1-star general in the Army, who is the head of the Office of Special Trial Counsel. And he goes through all these purposes about why they exist, and it's all victim-centric. And then the last thing he says, and we'll even watch out for the rights of the accused. That doesn't give us a lot of confidence that this is going to be a fair system.
Kind of an afterthought.
There's one person in the courtroom, Matt, in the courtroom, who is protected by the Constitution of the United States. That's the accused. So I do believe this. I hope that this system fixes some of these problems, but I will never believe this system is fair until 2 things happen. We have unanimous verdicts, and we have a voir dire system that is more extensive and more deliberate and more open than we do right now.
And so a lot of your listeners will know exactly what you're talking about, but some may not if it's a mom or dad. And I don't want to get too far down this rabbit hole because we've done whole podcast episodes on it, and I would encourage our listeners to check those out if they haven't already. But basically, with the unanimous verdicts, you don't have to have everybody agree on a conviction these days.
No,
in the military, whereas you might in state court.
No, a general court martial consists of 8 panel members. The defense we don't have a burden, but we have to have 3 of those 8 say not guilty to win.
Right. Which is not the way it works in a state court prosecution for the same crime.
Of course not. No, that requires unanimous verdicts because the weight of a conviction is so powerful in our country. And with regard to, voir dire.
Yeah, and voir dire being jury selection, panel selection.
Right.
In some parts of the country known as voir dire.
We believe and we have this idea in this country that you're tried by your peers. Well, unless you're in the military, because in the military, no member of the panel can be anybody that's junior to you. Everybody's got to be senior to you. And the commanding general, the convening authority who convenes the court martial, who's receiving the advice from the staff judge advocate's office, who's prosecuting our clients, he's the one that picks the jury pool.
Yeah, it's a strange system in many respects. And I think the average layperson doesn't really realize that. I know I certainly didn't. I'm an attorney. I don't practice anymore, but I'm an attorney. I've worked with thousands of lawyers over the years. And when you started telling me about the military system and how it differs from the state or federal criminal system, it was shocking to me. So
the last thing that I want to address in this article, and I think this goes to the heart of why this article bothered me so bad. It's not just the terminology the author uses about attacker and all these different things. There's a portion of the article that talks about how the office of the new trial counsel is really not working. That's a hint that's in the article. And she uses the idea that there's less prosecutions to show that the creation of this Office of Special Trial Counsel is not working. That's bad reporting. The Office of the Special Trial Counsel and the different branches, it's not totally up and functioning yet. It's a major overhaul that's going to take time. This is a precursor to the attacks that are going to come, even if that office does exceptional work. It's not fair what she's written.
So it might be a little premature.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There is no research that was done into this. You make a call into the Pentagon one time, you'll find out that it's still a work in progress. It's not fully implemented yet. And yet they're already being attacked for 2022 prosecution rates when they weren't even functioning in 2022.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting to see where that shakes out and what the benefits and disadvantages to that that new change is going to be. And we've talked a lot about that. We had Dave Schleter on talk about that. You guys have spoken a lot about it.
Matt, give me liberty or give me death.
Well, I know.
I do not want to live in a country that can convict a human being by 3/4. I do not want to live in a country where the Constitution bows to political pressure.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, everybody wants things like sexual assault and harassment to go away, but if you're a family member of somebody who's been falsely accused, it starts to look a lot different. And at some point, we need to have a balance between those two. It's never going to be a system that makes everybody happy. We need to close this show out. But I do want to say, and I think this is important to say, Rob, you've been pretty critical of this article. We do appreciate the author. Her name is Megan Myers. I would encourage everybody to read the article, read her other articles. We do appreciate her work on it, and why you might disagree. She was invited to come on today's show and talk about this issue. We invite her to come on another show to talk about this issue if she so chooses. If she wants to provide a statement or something, we'll in most likelihood read that on another podcast. But we want to be fair to her. We appreciate her work on it. Although, Rob, you may disagree with what she said. We don't want to go without saying that.
I do disagree with what she said. I've made that very clear. And listen, this is a topic that absolutely deserves the attention it's getting. There needs to be, when men and women sign up for the United States military, they need to be safe. But this is being blown way out of proportion. And a lot of what's in these articles is just factually not accurate.
You don't see many articles about the rights of the accused.
No, I look forward. And I look forward to the day when, if they're going to quote a victim advocate and a victim advocate's belief in a newspaper article or whatever, an online article, that they'll call somebody like us too.
Yeah.
Because there needs to be a voice on both sides.
Well, I think that's true. That is the way our system was designed. That's the way our system works best when it works. So who knows? Maybe you'll get that wish someday soon. But we're going to wrap up the show. We hope everybody enjoyed it. Thanks for tuning in. Sorry we couldn't bring Mickey Williams to you today, but he'll be back on an episode in short order, I'm sure. This is Matt Starosiak with Robert Capovilla signing off on the Military Justice Today podcast. Take care, everybody, and stay safe.
Thanks for listening to the Military Justice Today podcast with your hosts, Robert Capovilla and Mickey Williams. This show was made possible in part by the law firm of Capovilla and Williams. For more information or to listen to more episodes, visit militaryjusticetoday.com.